Hello, I'm Chris The Zelda Collector, and welcome back to Gossip Stones with Simon Locke, where we are up to part 4, and we're going to be discussing a topic of Simon's choice. We've already done parts 1 through 3. Part 1, we got to know Simon. Part 2, we asked Simon 12 Zelda-related questions. And part 3, the last episode, we discussed Simon's favourite Zelda games in the franchise. Simon, we're going to discuss a topic of your choice. Zelda
Okay.
related, of course.
Well, loosely Zelda related. I'd like to discuss Golden Axe Warrior.
Golden Axe Warrior. And why is that related to the Zelda franchise?
You could say it's Sega's tribute to what Nintendo were doing at the time.
Are you using
The
it
le-
as tribute? Not
Yeah,
rip-off, clone?
Well, it's not a clone. You could argue they ripped off a lot of features, but it's unique enough, and there's enough differences between them to say it's a good game in its own right. To the point where, having played the original Legend of Zelda, having played some of Zelda 2, and played through enough to the dark world of Link to the Past, I'd say I prefer Golden Axe Warrior just for the way that Sega have gone about doing things. So there are a lot of things that do annoy me with the Legend of Zelda, the 2D versions of the games, that don't happen in Golden Axe Warrior.
Yeah.
There's more challenge in some ways that the mechanics work, and there's lots of things where if you use one type of weapon throughout the entire game, you will struggle.
Yes.
Whereas if you get given a weapon that seems to do more damage initially and seems more versatile, but doesn't necessarily meet every requirement or every encounter you have with a certain types of enemy. So it starts off in a similar premise to The Legend of Zelda. You are a little tiny hero. You're given a sword pretty much from the start, and you set off to go and find out what's happened to the world. So you get a bit of a prologue when the game loads up, and it says you are effectively trying to stop Death Adder from the Golden Axe series, who has picked up the Golden Axe.
What a name, by the way.
It's a great name, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it doesn't really fit in very well with Golden Axe series. It's a complete departure from that. It's not a side-scrolling beat-em up. It is pretty much a Legend of Zelda style game.
Yeah.
So the prologue suggests that Death Adder's taken the axe and has laid waste to your world. Your town, which I believe is called Firewood, has been decimated by Death Adder and his armies, and you are off to pretty much build up enough things to be able to take him out. So you meet the first village, and similar to Zelda 2, every NPC you talk to gives you hints at things you want to do, but it's presented in the way more like Link to the Past and the first Legend of Zelda.
Right.
So there's no side view. It's just top down.
And there's no like on Zelda, you have your overworld map where you explore. Is it like that or not?
The overworld gap in the town.
Overworld. The town. You know, when you're going from village to village, you have like a little thing, and you're moving left, right, up, and down.
It functions very much like Link to the Past.
Link to the Past that way, right? Yes.
Yeah. So the towns you walk into are one area of the map.
Yeah.
But it follows more like the Legend of Zelda. You go through the edge of one screen is the next screen, and so
Right.
off. So blocks of map like the Legend of Zelda, but you interact with the towns and things more like Link to the Past.
Right.
Except there isn't any. Trying to think. I don't think there are any NPCs you encounter. You have to walk into a building that opens up into an inn or a
Right.
cave, and then you chat to someone. So it follows more like the first Legend of Zelda game. There are references to the Golden Axe series sort of sprinkled around. You will encounter characters from the games,
I have heard that all the characters do make an appearance in the game, don't you?
but it could be anyone. You just get a generic portrait and you're told it's Gilius, for example, who gives you the thunder spells. Like, oh, that's a very loose tie-in to, you know, the Golden Axe series, but it does work. And at no point playing the game do you think this is stupid. It's like if you got into the original Legend of Zelda game or Link to the Past, you would enjoy this game. It is very well done. At no point do you think this is just a rip-off of whatever, because they do it unique enough.
I'm going to say, is it different enough? Could you dress them in green? It could be a Zelda game, or is it different enough to differentiate?
No, the combat mechanics that annoyed me with the first game are gone, because you get different styles of attack. So you can use a sword and it functions similar. You can block with a shield in the same mechanic, but the limitations of the sword are you can only hit what's in front of you. Your first weapon upgrade is an axe, which doesn't have the range of the sword, but it attacks to your left and to your right. So you get a sweeping action instead. But it is a bit slower than the sword, so there are some enemies that can catch you off guard, but other enemies that like to move around a lot, you can hit him with the axe and you're always guaranteed a hit. So there are certain bosses in the game where you need to use the axe, otherwise you struggle because they move too quick. You can't line yourself back up in a way that you can get your hits in. All there's projectiles coming off the boss that you need to either hit with your axe or avoid completely, and the sword is a bit slower as well. It takes a long time to do your stabbing motion, whereas the axe is really quick, but the range is shorter. So there's a lot of things there where you think, oh, this is similar to Legend of Zelda. Oh, that's different. Oh, okay. So the dungeons work very much like a simplistic version of Link to the Past, because it is on Sega's Master System hardware, mind you, which is supposed to compete with the NES
system, isn't it?
Graphically, it looks stunning compared to the original NES game, and Zelda 2 as well. It looks more towards early Mega Drive era for this type of game. The only limitations are how much is going on in the screen. So the art style looks fantastic, whereas the amount of things... Sorry?
No, continue.
I was about to say you only start noticing that, hey, this is definitely a Master System game when stuff's kicking off on screen. If you've got several types of enemies, and you start seeing the limitations, start seeing a few sprites flickering, for example, or it's not drawing all the projectiles smoothly. They're kind of switching from one to the other as they're appearing on the screen. So otherwise, you'd think it was just a very early Mega Drive game, because the amount of detail that's gone into it, I think, it's not what you'd expect from certainly some of the earlier Master System games. It was early 90s, but they were releasing Master System games up until, I think, 93, 94, at least officially in the UK.
Wait, I'll say what year was it released, do you know, or not?
It was,
91. 91. Going to say, yes. So that was pretty much a year before A Link to the Past was released, so obviously it is very late in the Master System life, so they are getting the best from the system at that point, aren't they?
Yeah. So I think was it Zelda 2 was that 89 to 90?
Yeah.
So a year after that, or a year or two after that. So I think it's I think it's kind of Sega going, we can do this type of thing as well, and we can appeal to people that enjoyed your game on your platform. We can answer the demand for such a thing on ours as well, because they do. It's not the only RPG they've had, or action RPG, I suppose, that they've had. They have the Wise series, but they're not as comparable to Zelda than this game is. This is more like a Zelda game than other games that they've had on the platform before, and even afterwards. I don't think they've had another game quite like this. Certainly not one that would appeal to anyone who's a fan of the Legend of Zelda series. The boss mechanics are very similar.
Yeah.
So you enter your dungeon. You get your ass kicked quite frequently by different types of enemies. You have the same kind of concept of moving blocks to open things, building, putting rafts down. There's candles that you've got to interact with on walls. Certain ones unlock things. You're kind of left to explore and discover and work things out. It's not handed to you on a plate. You don't get any help. There's no one that's going to tell you, oh, you need to do this to get through. No, you are left on your own. It is very much like the first game. It is try, die, and try again to get through. Yeah. The only kind of rewarding thing is, I believe if you die, you start off at the start of the dungeon and you're left on full health.
Right, which sounds a lot better.
Yeah, unless you load your previous game save up, but they do punish you because you get a currency in the game which is called horns, and you collect those from things you kill.
Right.
So if you're every time you die, you will lose some of your currency. So they punish you that way instead. So yes, you can start the dungeon anew and progress through, but we're going to take a percentage of your currency off you to do so. So there are a lot of times where you'll rack up an impressive amount of money only to die a few times in a dungeon and go, actually I've lost all my reason for being here. So, and there are a lot of key items that you can upgrade that you need a lot of money for. So dying, if you want to obtain upgrades, is bad.
Yeah.
But if you just want to progress through something, it's fine. So if you're not working towards anything you need to get, you can just carry on. If you go to buy pretty much everything you get in the game as well, even to the point where you can get food to recover your health instead of hearts, and they come in like a loaf of bread. A rack of meat, for example, does your full health almost, and you will encounter those at random as you're beating things up, and they will occasionally drop them. But it's something like you'll get between 3 and 10 horns if something drops something.
Yeah.
However, if you want to go and buy meat from the shop, it's like 80 horns. So you have to kill a lot of things to get your full health back. Or you can just go and hit one random mob and it drops it. So you're kind of rewarded for exploring as opposed to cashing in. Yeah. They've got the whole hidden areas thing as well. So there, you'll find this out when you get the axe. You can start chopping down trees, and certain trees you chop down will unlock certain things in that area.
Well, I've heard it's not like Zelda where you just have one go of a candle in one map. You can actually have a good go at finding something in each map.
Oh yeah.
And I think a lot of areas does have secrets in, so it's worthwhile exploring.
You'll find that there's lots of trees in an area that you can't hit, that you should be able to, and then suddenly you find one tree you can hit, and you go, aha! Walk forward, hit a tree, aha! Oh, it's a path, and then that will lead somewhere, and then you'll find that you've unlocked a stairway which occupies one square on the map. You walk down there, and you don't know what you're going to find. You can find someone who you can gamble with, like you could in the first game. You can find someone who'll give you money, and you can find someone that will take money off you, which you don't really want to happen at all. But you won't know it. You won't know until it happens. And sometimes you can, be battling through a huge path through the trees and find out, because you must pay me 50 horns. It's like 50 horns. Are you kidding me? Do you know how long it took me to get that? So it does kind of rely on chance for a lot of things.
Yeah.
But it is a very good game once you start getting into it. If you liked the first Legend of Zelda game, but some things annoyed you, those things, the annoyances are gone, but there's other things in its place that make sense sometimes and other times just frustrate you.
Wait, funny you said it, you said that one thing annoys you, another thing's good. I've never played the game yet. I am hoping to play it, hopefully on stream one time in the future, so I can see if it is a good Zelda game. But I have read about one good thing and one bad thing about the game. I'll see if you agree, see if you've played it. The same, obviously one of the bad things was kind of, I think that the controller, I think obviously on the NES you have 2 action buttons. But apparently on the Master you only have 1 action button. And that's correct. You've got to constantly change every time you want to use something. Was that a problem you noticed in the game, or did you get used to it? Or
you're not having to switch between items too much in battle compared to Zelda, normal Zelda games where you're switching between, say, sword and boomerang and things a lot.
Yeah.
You're not having to do that so much, and you're only really needing to go into the menu system that I found. As I only went to the menu system, I wanted to know where I was in the world map.
And
I got lost.
how do you get to the menu system? Is it the start button on the controller? Button
Yeah,
one
just number one on the
right, so
control pad.
it's not pause. You don't have to lean over and
Or,
pause it.
unlike some games in this
Yeah.
on the Master System, the pause button on Golden Axe Warrior actually pauses the game.
Right,
Doesn't
that's
open up a secret menu, the thing you actually need to progress. So you don't have to sit next to the console.
right. You don't have to sit and press pause. Right, that's
No.
good then.
No. So your button one or start on the control pad will bring up your menu, and it will show you the world map, and it will show you some things like your currency, how many crystals you've got, which is usually on the screen all the time. So I forgot to mention the primary objective is to gain all the crystals from each of the dungeons, which allows you to defeat Death Adder at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So you're working through collecting your crystals. So each dungeon you encounter will have typically a boss, and there's usually a item or prerequisite to being able to complete a dungeon. So the first dungeon you're supposed to do, and each dungeon's labelled kind of as you walk in. It will say on the floor what dungeon number it is.
Yeah.
In like Roman numerals and like the tiles on the floor. So you walk in dungeon 1. Okay, what do I need to do for dungeon 1? So, I need the axe. I need to have picked up the axe, which I can't. I think it's somewhere in the dungeon. But if you go straight to the boss with the sword, you will likely die because you're not strong enough with that. Yeah, you need the axe to be able to hit
progression.
Yeah, so you have to make sure you pick up whichever items are needed. So there's another item where there's a rope you've got to pick up. If you haven't got the rope, you can't get through certain parts of the game. So it's kind of there's reason to go into the dungeon other than just kill a boss.
Yeah.
Or there's something you need to pick up before you go into the dungeon to be able to kill the boss. Otherwise, you will struggle. It's not impossible. People do. Some people can get through this game in like an hour, flat out, sort of doing everything, hitting every goal to get through it. Yeah. Others like me, so I keep coming back to it every few weeks or months, do a couple of dungeons, save it, don't come back to it for a while, then come back to it. So it's got a lot of casual gameplay compared to previous games. As soon as you can find somewhere you can save your game is saved. You don't have to do a horrible combination with the control pad on second player to save your game. It's just saved. You don't get punished having to start from certain locations in the world map. There's no penalty for it other than some places you save require you to pay to save. Other places will let you save for free. And the same with the inns that restore your health as well. Some will charge you, others won't. So it depends on where you are. Each region of the map kind of follows a theme. So where you start, it's very lush, it's very green. Then if you sort of move further south, it gets more desert-like. And then similarly, if you walk to sort of like the southwest, it becomes it's green, but it's kind of more wilderness. It's all over. Well, I say wilderness, more it's kind of like overgrown, and you encounter like stronger enemies in that area.
Right, that's what I'm going to move on to next. Is a positive I've heard about game is the overworld map, and it's supposed to be really good. It's a lot bigger than Legend of Zelda map, and like you say, it's supposed to have a lot of different areas and actual exploration alone. And I mean, you can in Legend of Zelda you have a raft and you go on a straight line, but at least you can actually get a boat you can go and sailing on and actually feel like exploring on the boat and stuff like that. Is that right? Yeah,
you will find that there's areas, especially I think it's in the south. I think it is in the southwest or over on the west side of the map, where it's almost like set out like islands.
Yeah.
Primitive because it's still 8-bit kind of hardware. It's not everything follows a grid system, but there's areas that you can see that you can't get to until you've got a means to get there. So you're kind of encouraged to go, okay, I can't get to there yet. I can see stuff's over there. I'll come back to that later when I've got the means to do so. So it kind of keeps you interested enough that you can see where you can go next, but you've got to go somewhere else you have to explore somewhere else first and come back to it later. And there's it's more casual, gamer friendly, I think, compared to other games of this time. So you're not having to make sure you get past certain points in the game. You can just, as long as you can travel back to somewhere, you can talk to someone to save your game. That's it. And there's lots of areas that you'll find that you can do so. Pretty much almost every village you encounter will have someone or somewhere nearby on the outskirts that can save your game for you. So it's easier to come back to, less punishing.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And sorry, the music.
The music
is fantastic. It's fantastic. You can listen to that music all day, all long. It doesn't annoy me.
Right.
So is
it good old fashioned 8-bit music?
Yeah, it's repetitive, incredibly repetitive, but you kind of you hear it, and it's not slow. It's fast. The tempo is quite fast, so you get kind of like almost pumped up, wanting to carry on. It's like you clear one map and the music is still going. It's like, right, I'm going on to the next area. Like as soon as you hear it's almost like a battle music. The moment you get outside of a village, because music is slow and kind of like do 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 in villages. The moment you hit the actual like where enemies are, music kicks off. It's like, right, I've got my axe, I'm gonna beat the ever-living hell out of things and get my golden horns to go and spend in the shop. So it is it doesn't get boring, I don't think. It's kind of rewarding because you know that something is going to drop stuff you need to progress, and most things to do with the currency, as I said. So almost everything you need to upgrade is to do with currency. It's always a good reason to go and kill a load of things just outside the village, because you're going to get something that helps you progress.
That sounds. You've actually got me really wanting to play it now, Simon. I must admit, it is a game I've always intrigued us because of it is probably one of the most well-known Zelda homages, as you've called it. That is out there, and it is a game I've always fancied playing. And you've painted a fantastic picture of there. You must admit, it does sound.
Have I got a couple of minutes left to chat about something else related to it?
Yes.
I had this game, Golden Axe War, from New. This isn't my original. That's not my original childhood copy. My original copy I had from New, and I quite liked it. But I had a load of friends who said, "This isn't a Golden Axe game, is it? I don't know what this is." So I almost got peer pressured into trading it in for the real Golden Axe on the Master System. So I traded that in and paid money for a tatty copy of Golden Axe the Master System, which, if you've played compared to the Mega Drive version, it's okay, but it's not great.
It's not the Mega Drive version.
I think I paid nearly £5 as well, trade-in, brand new copy of this game. Goes for a fair amount these days. It's not a cheap game anymore.
So right now it's averaging about £70 to £80 at the moment for a decent box copy.
And to think I traded that in for Golden Axe, which barely goes for a £5 these days, and I paid money for it. So I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder about this because I enjoyed that game, but because of my mates going, "Oh, you got this, why isn't the real game," etc., and I listened to them being the idiot I was. I think it's about 10, 12 years later, my friend goes to me, "You had Legend of Zelda, didn't you?" Simon's like, "No." He goes, "But we used to play on your Master System." I said, "No, I had Golden Axe Warrior, and you bloody had me trade it in for Golden Axe." You get. So he's like, "Sure, we played it on the Master System." It's like, no. So that was back when Ocarina of Time and things were becoming popular amongst friends that had N64s, and it's like, yeah, you had me trade that in. It's worth it. It did get a bit of bad press from some people at the time because of that reason, actually, that it wasn't a true Golden Axe game. It was just it had the name. But it wasn't.
That was it. Yeah, it just used the name, didn't it?
But I think it's good enough to warrant the name. It's certainly one of the most impressive games on the Master System that's not a platformer.
Yeah. So you painted a very good picture of it, Sam. Really, kind of. It's inspired us to play it more. You know what I mean? It's always one of those games I always wanted to play, but I think I shall push it up the list now to actually make an effort to play it soon. So yeah, it was a good topic of choice.
Well, thank you.
But yeah, I think we shall end on a couple of questions because this has been recorded live for me Discord viewers. So we've actually had some people watching live, and if you want to be involved in the next one, you should join my Discord, and the link is always left in there to watch it live. And as we've been streaming this, we've had a couple of our viewers ask Simon some questions, so we shall finish on answering these, Simon.
Okay.
We have from Jay. He knows you're into your consoles and doing a lot of mods and fixing stuff, and he wants to know what was the very first mod you did and what got you into doing it in the first place.
I'd say it was out of necessity. It was started off more repairs than anything else, and my first Mega Drive was second hand, and it was not well looked after, to the point where it failed not long after I received it for my birthday. So my dad had to go at repairing it and managed to resolve the issue, and then from then it had a very tortured life. For example, it survived a power surge. We had something go on that killed a load of appliances in the household at the time. My Mega Drive was one of the things that died. It was mostly the power supply that took the brunt, but it was never stable. After about an hour or so of being on, the Mega Drive would start locking up. So it took a beating, and from there it was always kind of known as being a bit unstable.
Yeah. And
like the power LED stopped working, and things like that. So it was effectively dying as I was trying to gain some enjoyment out of it, which kind of pushed me into emulation for a long time.
Yeah.
So, but I always kept hold of it. After selling my Master System very foolishly, my Master System 2 that was, it kind of conditioned me. I don't want to sell any of my consoles. I will keep it. I will come back to it at some point. I will regret it if that ever happens. So this got put into a box, and then about 2006, 2007, I was given my Mega Drive again that had been found in the attic, still boxed with a few of my games. And I plugged it in, and it didn't work. It's like, why doesn't this work? I want to play my damn Mega Drive. Why does it not work? It's like, oh, okay, RF apparently is not a thing anymore. I should be looking at other options. So it went from there. It was like composite video output. Oh, that's not working at all on this Mega Drive. So I bought another Mega Drive. It's like, oh, that's working. Okay, well, why doesn't mine work? And comparing the differences between the two, and so okay, if I replace this component on the board, it might fix that. It's like, oh, it did fix that, brilliant. It's like I can play my original Mega Drive again through the composite cable, and I find out, oh, these things do RGB. Okay, well, what do I need to get that to work? Oh, it's native. Okay, so bought an RGB cable, plugged that into my original Mega Drive, didn't work, not working at all. Okay, plug it into the other Mega Drive I bought. Oh, it works now. Okay, why doesn't it work? And it went on from there. And then I found out about the 50-60 hertz situation. So a lot of games aren't optimized to run at PAL. 50 hertz. So you could modify the Mega Drive by removing a few bridges and then creating your own sort of switch to go across to change the configuration of the hardware, which will tell it to boot into 60 hertz, and then you can play games at full speed and what you perceive to be full screen. It's like, oh, this is excellent. And then you find out that you can change the language on some games, and Streets of Rage can become bare knuckle. That's fascinating. I wonder what other differences are there. So it kind of got me interested from a necessity to repair, went into, there's all these things you can do to this to get a bit more out of the hardware that I had no idea before, but because I'm exposed to this world of trying to repair the thing, it's, you know, what have I got to lose? I'm already changing things on the board. It's no longer its original. It was broken anyway, so it just went from there really, and then snowballed into restoring PC engines, Neo Geo MVS boards, Master Systems, Mega Drives, Mega CDs. It just went from there really.
Yeah.
All from a faulty Mega Drive of childhood.
And then you are where you are now.
Yeah.
Right, well I hope Jay enjoyed that then. And our last question, which I'll jump over to, and this is from Will, and he wants to know if you could be any character from any game for a day, who would you be? I mean, we'll ask why on the end of the day, maybe.
I have no idea really. It's Zelda related franchise, I assume.
I think you just said any game from any game, so anything really.
Honestly, I don't know. I couldn't think of something like. I don't really think in those kind of things really.
Wait, I'll tell you what. We'll change your question because you did leave another one and all. You left off that.
Okay.
If you could destroy any franchise from history, so no one could play it, what would it be?
Oh, that's a good one. What really annoys the heck out of me? That isn't Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, but it's franchise, not game.
Yeah, exactly.
Franchise.
I can't hold Ocarina of Time against the Zelda franchise. Probably Counter-Strike.
Counter-Strike.
Yeah. 'Cause I could tolerate Quake fans being an Unreal fan, but the Counter-Strike players are some of the worst at the time. So, you know, Quake people was like, oh, we can get along, we have things in common. Counter-Strike, no. We don't have anything in common other than if we're playing on a PC platform. So yeah, I'd destroy that franchise.
Right.
I'd happily destroy it.
Let's see what Will thinks of that then.
Yeah.
But go ahead, I think that could be it then. I think that could be us done. It's been a fantastic topic of discussion there, Simon.
Thank you very much for having me.
The whole series has been fantastic, all 4 parts. I really enjoyed myself. I hope you have too.
Yeah, I certainly have.
Like you said, it's been nice for people to meet the man behind the hammer, because as we know, Simon is my moderator in all my live streams. The wielder of Milnir, as I keep saying every time I introduce him. And yeah, like you say, it's just thank you so much for coming and doing this.
You're very welcome.
And I've really enjoyed it, so thank you very much. Is there anything you would like to say, or is that...
No, other than it's dangerous to go along.
It's dangerous to go alone. Says it again. I think it's fantastic. Right, so that is it. I shall see you all in the next video.
Okay,
Bye.
see ya.